Recording. Awesome. Thank you. And hi, everyone. Welcome to our 8th end of work cycle update for stakeholders. We really appreciate you being here today. We're going to try to keep this meeting concise, but also informative. And whether or not you're joining us today live or you're watching this recording, we really appreciate you being here. So for those of you who haven't been to one of these before, these really high-level updates were created in response to stakeholder feedback that it would be really helpful for the Surfliner team to hold a regular, really high-level update meeting at the end of each of our work cycles to share what the team accomplished. As a reminder, we do also do a sprint review and demo at the end of each of our sprints. To provide more granular details. And those are all shared on the Surfliner blog along with the written summary. So if you leave this wanting to know more is available over there. Also, just a quick bit of housekeeping. You may have noticed this meeting is being recorded. We will share this on the blog as well. And so if you could please keep yourself muted if you're not speaking to help with the recording quality. And also, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat as you think of them. I'll be keeping an eye on that as we go along. However, in the interest of time, we are going to wait to answer any questions that come up until the end. Also, I think most of the videos are off, but again, this is being recorded. So if you don't want your recording to be shared, please make sure you turn off your video as well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So we have quite a full agenda today. I'm going to start just by doing a quick report out on the second annual Surfliner prioritization exercise that the project team did earlier this year. I'll also just give you a little recap of the work cycle and when it was and how we usually schedule these things. And then Margaret Kibbe and Tamsin Wu are going to be giving us some updates about the work that happened in both the Daylight and Comet projects. Unfortunately, Gabriella, the Comet product owner, isn't able to be here. She's on a much-deserved vacation. And then finally, we'll just check in at the end back in that prioritization to sort of see what progress we've made and talk about what when the next work cycle is going to be. And then lots of time for questions, hopefully. All right, so this may look, sorry, I had to sort of chop this in two so it would all fit on the screen and still be legible. But this might look a little familiar to you because we did something very similar to this last year. And so last year, we realized that as a team, we were getting all of these different products and all of these different product teams. And that we needed to do a better job of coordinating among the teams in terms of the individual priorities for those products, because there's a lot of dependencies on each other. And there is a sort of sequence sometimes that we need to follow to get things into place. Last year, it was so great that we decided to do it again this year. And we met on February 6th to do this again. Like last year, we played a game called 2020 Vision. And this is a prioritization exercise where you are forced, nothing can be the same priority. You're really forced to make hard decisions and assert what this actual prioritization order is. And so this session was really focused on the project's really high level, primarily technical epics, not issue level. So this is more granular chunks. I'm sorry, this is less granular sort of and more these large chunks of work. And so we worked on refining those and then aligning those with our strategic objectives. So prior to the exercise, we asked all of the tech leads and product owners to talk with their teams and their stakeholders and ask them to compile the top priorities for the product that they lead for over the upcoming year, along with the perceived benefits for each of those priorities. We also asked the project team as a whole to consider priorities related to the health of the overall project and the collaboration. So these might be things like maintenance of the products that are in production, or just keeping on top of new releases of a lot of our major dependencies, but also things like professional development for the team, and even things like how the team is participating in open source communities as a group. So all of these priorities were consolidated into a shared list, which was then captured in these individual cards that you see here on a Miro board. And then in the session, each sort of representative for that priority was able to present that to the group and talk about it in more detail. And then we really got down to work in terms of ranking these out. And in terms of the actual products, dependencies really played a significant role in the prioritization decisions, as certain aspects of product development really rely on a feature being developed in one of the other products. What this approach helps us to do is to just ensure that we have an efficient allocation of resources, and also that we're strategically sequencing the tasks. So we'll be using this Miro board throughout the upcoming year to focus and synchronize our efforts and to track our progress. We also will check in on this again as a group, probably about halfway through the year, to make sure that it's still in alignment with the current need. Things change really fast in our environment sometimes. We also really like tracking our project against this. So you'll see a picture of this later in today's presentation, but we'll continue to keep it updated throughout the year. But if you're interested in this, Gabriella wrote up a really nice blog post that shares more details. Also, I've linked to both the Miro board and that blog post from this slide, so you can go back and explore if you're interested in some more details about what we did. All right, so this past work cycle. So the Surfliner team, as I think most of you know by now, we don't work together 100% of the year. We work in these roughly 56-day on-off work cycles, and then we schedule a little buffer period in between. Generally, this translates into 4 two-week sprints. But because of spring break occurring during this work cycle, we did actually have a 3-week sprint to allow people to be off with their families during this time. So the work cycle officially started on Valentine's Day on February 14th, and then just wrapped up on April 16th, so just about a week and a half ago. So we're still in that buffer period, so there's still a lot of activity happening to close out that work cycle. This work cycle was focused on both Comet and Daylight, and I think at this point, most of you probably know what Comet is, our staff-facing digital object management system, but the Daylight name might be something that is new to you. So I'm gonna actually turn it over now to Margaret to tell you a little bit more about what this Daylight is, and then Tamsin is gonna share some more information about what the team accomplished in both Daylight and Comet during this work cycle, and also share a demo. So without further ado.
Yeah, I'm Margaret Kibbe, and I'll be talking about Daylight. You can go to the next slide. So I've included a little diagram here. It has some discovery platforms, and I'll be using this to kind of set the stage for what Daylight is and what we're trying to do with it. There's a few things I want to point out about this diagram. First is there's 2 discovery platforms, and that's something that we've realized as we've gone into Daylight. Initially, we were kind of thinking of Daylight as the Surfliner discovery platform, but we've since realized that maybe we need multiple discovery platforms, and that could be multiple at one campus, that could be UCSB having one discovery platform and UCSD having a different discovery platform. So thinking of it as the discovery platform wasn't really the right approach. And instead, what we've leaned increasingly towards is a micro front-end approach, which I'll explain, where you have these discovery platforms, they're serving out pages to users, and those pages are comprised of some number of components. And the component could be the header, it could be the search functionality, it could be the thing that displays an object. And all of those components are being served by a different service, and those are the micro front ends on the right. And there's two things that this gets us. One, from a maintenance perspective, it allows us to upgrade single components incrementally. We've had difficulties in the past with Comet, for example, or with Spotlight, where we've needed to upgrade everything at the same time, and those are large. So it's been very difficult for us to do that upgrade when we have to do it all at once. So we can just upgrade parts of it and have a lot of flexibility there. The other perhaps better thing that it gets us is it allows these components to be reused in multiple different platforms. So for example, at UCSB, we have a unified header that we use for our branding on all of our sites. So we can just create one header component and then bring that into multiple discovery platforms. We might decide at UCSB and at UCSD that we both want to use the same search functionality in our discovery platform. So we can create one search functionality micro front end and then use that in both discovery platforms. So even though I labeled these as micro front end 1A and 2A, those could be the same micro front end being used in multiple different discovery platforms. So next slide. So this is what daylight is the right-hand side of this diagram. It's a set of shared patterns that we're using with this micro front-end architecture, and then reusable components on the side. It's not actually the discovery platforms themselves. Those are likely to be campus specific, and we might have multiple of them. Next slide. So this is that information again, a little more in depth. It's not the application. We want to share useful code between the campuses, but we don't want to restrict ourselves. We don't want to be sitting here thinking, oh, over at UCSD, they're doing this thing, but we would really like to do something different and have attention there, or vice versa, UCSD being like, oh, UCSB is doing this. We'd really rather not. We want to have the freedom for each campus to do their own things and each discovery platform to do what it needs to do best, but we still want to share the useful code between campuses. And Daylight is also a minimal set of components that we can each use. It's not expected that every component that we use is going to necessarily fall under the heading of Daylight. Like the UCSB header is probably not something that's useful to UCSD. That's really our campus's thing. So not everything's going to be shareable in that sense. But we're hoping that at least some of the things like the search components or the object view components, that we can share those. Next slide. So this is what we've accomplished. We started the work cycle having basically nothing other than this general idea. So the first thing that we did was we created a really simple blacklight app to start experimenting with this. And that's not expected to turn into a finished product. It's just something that we can use to help develop these tools. And you'll see a bit of that when Tamsin starts demoing later. We developed tools and practices for developing and shipping micro front ends and integrating them into applications. There was a lot of really good DevOps collaboration that happened this past work cycle in getting us the skills that we need in order to develop and ship these micro front ends into production. That was really nice to see. We built a Ruby gem that we can use for integrating those with the application. And then we developed some initial components for viewing objects that we've published from Comet. Those give us a starting point for developing Surfliner-based discovery platforms in the future. I do want to call out the Samvera community here because we used their IIIF viewer for our object show, and that really helped us get that going very quickly. So it was very nice that they already kind of had an object display IIIF viewer just sitting in the Samvera repository that we could very quickly leverage. Tamsin will, I think, demo this here shortly, but also talk some about Comet. So I'm going to turn it over to her to do that.
Thank you. Chrissy, are you still running the, yes, you're running the slides. Okay, perfect. So I will transition us to a demo of both Comet and Daylight. Part of what I want to demo is the integration between the two. So I'm going to start by just talking about the Comet stuff. Can we do the project team slide? So yeah, so this is the large and growing Comet project team. I'll remind folks that we have an approach of having cross-functional teams. So you'll see people in administrative roles here. You'll see people in operational roles and developers, and also I'd like to specifically welcome two new additions to this slide, Elisa Pierce and Michael Craig, who joined DLD on the UCSB side. Since the last time we've done, since the last time we've started a work cycle, perhaps not since the last time we ended one. So welcome to them, especially the contributions on the front end side from Elisa and Michael's collaboration with the DevOps stuff that Margaret was just gesturing towards has been a real energizer for the team. Let's go ahead and do the work cycle goals. So we had 4 real focal points for the for the Comet work cycle. The first 2 are thematic together. We wanted to finish up the batch import export round tripping work that we started in the fall. So we left off in the fall with a pretty robust batch import process, but we did not yet have an export process. And especially importantly, we didn't have a process where I could import some data, export it as CSV, make changes, and re-import. And we really anticipate that being the most significant workflow process for ingest at scale. So we wanted to get that delivered this work cycle. Coupled with that, we also wanted to finish the work that we had begun on making the bulk workflow, the workflow capabilities bulk oriented. So you can now filter objects by their workflow state, by the project that they've been deposited to, by the importer that was used to create them, and then select objects to move them through in batch. So this opens the door to processes like I import lots of content, I do a spot review on some of it in the Comet environment, and then export to make some corrections, re-import, and move through the workflow to the next step. So I'm hoping to have a sharp little demo of that for you in a few minutes. Another piece that we really wanted to carry on was the Daylight integration. So we knew that we were going to be working on that those micro front end patterns, and we wanted right up front to be working on the processes for actually getting content through from Comet into that front end. The patterns that we used were already pretty tried and true from past work on Shoreline, especially. So we were able to deliver that pretty straightforwardly. And we did some UI work related to the publish and unpublish behaviors to help that along. And then last but very much not least, you'll have noticed in Chrissy's slide that lots of maintenance stuff falls on the far right highest priority side of our prioritization exercises. So true to form, we did some maintenance work on the just like catching Comet up to the upstream work, and I have a whole slide about that, and also some small features like reindexed utility, which is convenient for us as the operational team, and file edit, and some behaviors around object destroy. I think I won't bother demoing for you either the file edit behavior or the object destroy behavior, but these are cases where we had mostly functional UI behaviors, but some details needed ironing out. For example, for destroying objects, we needed a really consistent and clear behavior about what happens to members of those objects, and we had several rounds of discussion about that in the past, and this was a case where we were able to sort of come to a reasonable final behavior, and various bug fixes as well. Whenever we're noticing bugs, we're trying to prioritize patching those. Can we do the Hyrax 5 slide? So a really significant effort from the Surfliner team, both just last fall and also going back, honestly, years at this point, has been to push the Samvera community and the Hyrax sub community within that community towards a Hyrax release that supports our data store and metadata backend approaches as first class. That's been a long time in the making, and finally on on March 1st, Hyrax 5.0 released with full support for that. This is a pretty significant release for us, because it means that many of the features that we had been sort of either softly supporting or having to write custom code to patch, most of that code made it back upstream, and now we no longer maintain it ourselves. That's a pattern we really like in general, is to if we're in the position of developing something from scratch and it has community cache, then we can try and make our friends maintain it for us or maintain it with us. So this is an example of that really coming to fruition. And in the meanwhile, we were able to get a couple of like, I guess, free features is a way of putting it. But for example, the embargo and lease functionality that existed for other backends in Hyrax 3 and 4 is now just fully supported in Hyrax 5, and we didn't end up having to do substantial work on that as the Surfliner team at all, which is really nice. Like, lots of stuff that we had put in our backlog just got closed by the effort by the community to do this work. Okay, I guess I'm going to take over screen share now. For demo. Okay. You can hopefully see a blurry puppy.
3 blurry puppies.
3 blurry puppies, perfect. Okay, so I think I'm going to try to make the demo a little bit quick. So I'm going to go to the dashboard, and I'm going to grab a completed import and just demo Vern Todd, perfect. And we have, so this is an import that I ran some time ago. If I, sorry, I just want to make sure that I have generic objects here. Yes, lovely. Perfect. Okay, so I would like to export these objects. So I'm going to go grab us an exporter. Please forgive the export and the exporter page load time. There's in progress work. I think, in fact, it's done and just needs review to make this faster. But I'm going to make a new exporter now, and I'm going to name it. We're going to name it Vern Todd. Stakeholder review, because that will help me remember what I want it to do. So I'm going to export metadata only from the importer. I can also choose to export from collection, and I could do, I don't know if Vern Todd is, it may not actually be a collection name, but if I can find a collection here and export all the objects that are members of a given collection. But I can also find my demo Vern Todd import. And I'm just going to leave all the other options default. Yes, I'm going to do that. Include. Yep. Okay. So I have other options, but I'm just going to do a default export. And that will take a moment to process, and then I should go back to that slow loading exporter page, and in a few minutes we should be able to download. So you can see the status for this is pending. It's going to run in the background. I can go look at its status as I go. Push the back button. Oh yeah, okay. So that actually did complete on me. Maybe I should. I'm going to let it finish and not abuse my browser. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go back to I feel like I had. Yes, okay, there we go. So now the status has gone to complete. And either from here or from the individual exporter page, I can download this zip. And the zip file is going to contain the CSV. If I had chosen to export the files, I would also get those. And I'm just going to do a quick just a quick pull of that. I'm sorry, the name of the download was export 3560. The naming of the downloads is fun. 3560 1.zip to 32 from importer. And now I have all these objects with their metadata. If I were a different type of person, I would load this in a spreadsheet for you or something. But I can now like find these objects by their titles. And I'm going to pop back over to refresh my memory about what their titles are, because it's always, oh, that's fun. This object is breaking on me. Between the devil and the deep blue sea, perfect. So I'm just going to go like change yeah, we can change that title because we don't like devils, we like angels. And then I can go back to the comment interface, and now I can make an importer. I'm forced to choose a project on the re-import. I think we should do a little like UI fussing with this. I'm forced to choose a project on the re-import, but sorry, I named this demo. But actually, like these objects already exist, so they won't go into any projects. This project just selects what project new content is going into. So now I can run this import. And again, in the background, all the objects will import. Some of this validation runs up front, which makes this slightly slower than it could be, but you can. Lovely. Object entries, and the bulk, and then the importer has validated, and if I push continue, then it will actually just go ahead and import. And one of these objects should be I guess I should go look at which object Angel in the Deep Blue Sea was in the arc. F30. Okay. Yeah, that looks like the one. The object view is a little funny, huh? I wonder maybe the best way. I didn't expect the object view to be throwing unhandled exceptions on me. But I think that if I pop back here, yeah, that I can find that object changed. I can also, like integrated with that process, I can also pop back to the dashboard and find these objects. All of these objects are in review. So now I can imagine I, as the reviewer, have done this export and made the corrections that I wanted to make, and I'm going to do a re-import. Or I did the re-import. I'm now happy that they're correct. Oh, funny, these are finding themselves in two different in review statuses. That's interesting. I'm a little curious. I think I'm going to want to open a little ticket to disambiguate these statuses. So the thing that's going on here is, maybe I'm not sure what's going on here actually. Yeah, I wonder if I can do these a couple at a time right now. Do angel. Yeah, okay. So that I can say I and that's I'm a little annoyed about this sort of like slipping in that way for you, but you can see I can select a couple of these, move them through. It does enforce that I can only do the ones, I can only do them as a group if they're in the same status. So like I can't accidentally try to move objects that are from that are from that are in different states to new states together. I can only do them in groups that are in a shared workflow state. The way that we've organized this batch workflow process is that we envision you mostly doing this in two separate ways. One is I do a large scale import, and then I'd like to review all the objects in the importer. So that's this capability. I can do like a little search here. That's a nice feature that we wrapped this work cycle, and then I can filter by workflow state. But alternatively, I could also do multiple imports into one consistent project and sort of like continually batch review everything in the project. So that's the idea here. I might approve ADRL objects in batch, even if I'm continuing to import directly into that project on a regular basis. So that's sort of the idea there. Did those just not update? Fun. Okay. So now I would like to go to an object that I can actually see. Unhandled exceptions in a demo, always fun. Let's go to the top level. And I'm just going to grab, oh, here's my, actually, yeah. Okay, so here is a Comet object view. We added to this page this publish action. We still anticipate that the main way you'll publish objects is through a workflow, so a workflow that has a publish trigger as part of its process. But we wanted to add control for individual object handling of where they are published and not. So if an object is not published to any of the front ends that are supported by the Comet deployment, then you can use this interface to publish it. And it will go off to daylight. I think that this, yeah, I'm not surprised that that link doesn't work. And I can publish and unpublish this. And this is going to use the infrastructure that we have in place. Yeah, the shoreline one also doesn't work. That's fun. Because that's linking to the internal SuperSkunk link. I do think we meant to bug fix that. Yeah, fam. Anyway, the publish unpublish actions do the trick, and I'm going to pop over to our daylight interface now. So this is the end result of that daylight conversation for the purposes of this work cycle. A lot of the work that we did on this is on technical patterns for both for developing these micro front ends and for supporting their deployment and integration. So the page that you're seeing now is actually composed of 3 separate web services that are serving out the header, and this is swappable. So I could replace a different header that are serving out the search box, which is also swappable, and that are serving out a featured items page. And if I go over to my little dev environment, then I do actually have some objects in here, and I can do a little search. This page is also composed of, again, I think 3, because there's a footer. There's a page that's serving out there's a component that's serving out these object listings, and then the header, again, reused from the last. I think, yeah, I think that an interesting thing, yeah. So we do have, as Margaret mentioned, a Samvera supported IIIF driven object viewer. My demo for that sort of fell apart, I think, on 2 fronts for us. Yeah, this one's just going to go blank, I think. But the pattern that we've developed with this daylight work is that that I'm going to run like many different fragmented front ends, compose them together into an application that works for us. The idea, again, is sort of that will have decoupled the development flow for any given front end or each campus's front end needs from the sort of slower and more consensus driven Surfliner process. So if you need to make a change to your discovery platform, you can do that quickly while also engaging in a collaborative development process that saves everybody time. So yeah, I guess the last thing that I wanted to demo on the Comet side was just that the embargo behavior works. I staged this up as a embargo object that I can hang on. Yeah, okay. So I can deactivate this embargo, and then it should go out of its embargo state. It should go out of its embargo state. Oh, this object is not currently under embargo. I'm adding an embargo to it. We fixed a bug for this in. I think that this like fixes the title fix is getting is still in merge process. But yeah, so I can like now use the Hyrax embargo and lease management functionality, and I can create objects that have temporary visibility states and expect them to get handled correctly. So I can like, this one's private until 2027, 2028. and those releases, the change in permissions should take effect on schedule in 2028. Okay, I think that brings me to time, and I want to hand it back to Chrissy for a closeout.
Yeah, thanks, Tamsin. That was great. I know live demos are always, especially live demos right as we're wrapping up a cycle, are always fun. You did a great job.
Always exciting.
Always very exciting. So just to circle back to our priorities progress. So this is what I was talking about, is we're going to try to keep this updated as we go along this year. So you can see this is trimmed because, again, it's a really long list. But in this last work cycle, we did two things: the round tripping of objects and the bulk workflow management. We still need to do probably some refinement as folks are actually working in them in the production environment. But the bulk of the work is done to the point that we're happy to check this off the list. We also made meaningful progress in this work cycle on 4 of our other priorities, refining the project and workflow roles, UI, lots of progress on delivering a minimal daylight integration, some work on productioning our hardening practices as we're getting closer to being able to put stuff in a production commit, and also some work over on the shoreline front. And so what is up next? We as a group are not scheduled to come together on a formal work cycle now until the middle of July. We'll be coming back for another round of development sprints on July 10th, and that's scheduled to take us into early fall. We'll be using the results of that prioritization session and also the work that's going to be happening at each campus during this off cycle to help us identify exactly which priorities we're going to be working on in July. Speaking just for UCSB, despite some fun with our NetApp happening recently, we're still planning on working on migrating our ADRL objects. You saw some of those in Tamsin's demo. We're going to try to get that pushed forward. Folks at UCSB that are not on the project team, this is also probably going to be in the next few months, the first time that we are able to have you start coming in and playing with these objects within the system. I can't speak exactly to the plans for the off cycle at UCSD, since unfortunately Gabriella is not able to be here with us today. But my understanding is there's a lot of exciting work coming at both campuses during the next few months. Just a reminder is there's lots of ways outside of this that we invite you to stay up to date. We have an extremely active Slack channel over in the UC Tech Slack. I am told it is the most active Slack channel in the on that UC Tech Slack. We have a less active Surfliner announced channel there, where we try to share the big updates if the volume is too much for you. We also have a project blog where we share all the sprint reviews. This demo will be shared there as well. And you're always welcome to reach out to me, or now that Jessica has left UCSD, Tim or Michael Stewart there with questions. Also, you're always welcome to reach out to the product owner or tech leads of the specific products that you might have a question regarding. And so I saw a hand come up and then it went away, but that was good timing because this is officially time for questions if folks have any. And feel free to either unmute yourself or to just pop it in the chat. I'll give folks a minute. And then don't worry, if you have questions that you don't want to be recorded, we will also pause because I know sometimes folks have something